Hello, welcome to the Black Salt Mirror. Today I'm going to tell you some strange stories. Possibly more than one, but definitely one. The more I do these videos, the more unusual the messages, and the less that I understand them about myself. Like, they're clearly very specific for someone who will relate to the story that I'm telling. There was something weird with the candle I was talking. It burned way down as I started to talk, as though it was going to go out, but then when I started telling you about these readings, it flared way up. And there's no draft here, so everything's a sign for someone, I suppose. So I was never into Star Wars. Growing up, we watched Star Trek in my family, although I did see the original series as a child. And then I was fairly young when the second set of the prequels came out. And I remember seeing young Anakin, and my aunt said, "That's Darth Vader." I was like, "How do you know?" I didn't understand because I don't think I followed the storyline of the first three from, I think they were in the 70s. So I didn't recognize any of the obvious things that would have told you that's who that was. But the kid, there was something off about the kid to me. I was like, "That's not Vader though." And then the next one came out, and I think that was when he was an adult. It's been a while since I've seen them. But they had Hayden Christensen playing him for, I think, the next two of that installment. And I was like, that's not Vader either. What's going on? And this is why it's relevant that I'm not really into Star Wars, is because I never thought about it much. It was one of those, that's not right kind of things. And then I went about my life and just saw Star Wars things in passing, but every once in a while I'd see something like the scene where they take Darth Vader's helmet off. I'm like, that's not the actor. That's not Vader. Did they get somebody else to do that scene? Why would they? And it wasn't until last night, in the year of our Lord 2026, when for some reason across my feed came a short about, it's come to my attention that this microphone here picks up that clock, and it might be distracting for some of you, so we'll just pause when it happens. It won't happen again for another hour. I came across a short last night on my feed, and it was about specifically Vader and the choices that they made early on. Apparently George Lucas had hired an actor to play him. There's this tall, thin, white guy who was under the suit and who was under the impression that he would be dubbing over the Vader voice because he had expressed concerns on the set that the helmet was muffling him, and Lucas said, "Oh no, it's okay. Well, we're going to record all of it over again after production." But apparently George Lucas knew all along that he didn't want that voice. He wanted a distinctive voice for Vader. And he'd had some other actor in mind who I've heard of, and I guess was famous at the time, which is why they didn't use him, but I can't remember who it was. That wasn't not relevant either. And it wasn't until they got to the part where they decided that James Earl Jones was going to be the voice for Vader that I suddenly had this epiphany of why all of the other actors playing him in the movies felt wrong to me. It's because that's not James Earl Jones. When I hear that voice, I know what the man looks like, and I'm like, oh, it's that guy. And from my childhood, he was a bit older at that time, so I remember him having a little bit more weight and doing the very typical for the time, white starched shirt with a colored sweater over it, and a very warm, approachable. He had a very huggable energy, very kind. I'd be very surprised to find out if he wasn't a good person. I think he was. But that's why it always felt wrong to me whenever I saw the people they cast for younger Anakin, and then I saw the guy who was in the suit when they took the helmet off. I'm like, that's not James Earl Jones. And for some reason, I don't know if I told myself this or somebody had said it a long time ago, but I thought that, like, I knew that he wasn't the one in the suit. I think my mother told me, and I guess I assumed that because he was such a big person in my mind as a child, that they would have cast him first because he's Vader, you can hear it, and then they just got somebody else to play the guy in the suit. But I guess that's not how they did it at all. He was much later, and they said in the thing that I watched that they didn't even credit him for a long time because he wasn't the actor that played Vader. He was just a voiceover actor. But to me, he was always Vader. And in this piece in the back of my brain always knew that these other actors who don't look or sound like James Earl Jones, how could they play Vader? Even in younger years, like, because he was in that suit because of damage that his body took, but that doesn't deepen and give you like a really nice book reading type voice. It might give you a scratchy voice. And the breathing thing, which they added in separately, so that wasn't James Earl Jones acting the breathing thing. That was a sound tech guy, apparently. All this information came from the short, by the way. I don't know any of this independently. But that was a message for somebody about your ears and hearing, because I just made something very recently about smell and how important smell is and how it connects to a certain part of the brain that bypasses a logical process that the other senses all go through, some sort of rationalizing. Smells just kind of happen to you and they sneak around. But then this very strong message came to me. It came to me right after I'd recorded yesterday's videos, but I was done recording. So I sat with it and I thought about how I wanted to phrase it and if I could gain or divine anything from the symbolism, like why would this be a message for somebody? But that was the message. It's about trusting your ears and the truth. It always comes down to truth, because that's what communication is for, is truth. And it's about people's voices and the resonance of their voices and recognizing truth. I don't know if you can hear that annoying car alarm. I will stop there because that was the main part of the message. The rest of it is mostly my interpretation of why you'd need to pay attention to voices and distinguishing them, particularly, and recognizing when the person being attributed to something is not the voice. It's about truth. Because those other people weren't Vader. James Earl Jones was Vader. I'll see you next time.